Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country Homestead, and I'm going to make biscuits and gravy for Mr. Rain this morning on the wood stove. And so I wanted to show you how I do my biscuits on the wood stove, even though we don't have a wood cook stove, so we don't have the oven. I'll go ahead and show you how I mix up my biscuit mix, and keep in mind this is going to be a very small recipe because it's just the two of us and I don't always even eat a biscuit. So I'm going to go ahead and make a half batch. I usually don't even make that much. So what I have in here is a half tablespoon of baking powder. And I'm going to be putting in 1 cup of my whole wheat, home ground white wheat flour, organic. Okay. And now that I got this cup empty, I'm going to do about, let's see if I can guess. I'm going to put in 1/4 cup of milk and a tablespoon of vinegar. That'll make the biscuits a little healthier and a little bit fluffier. I want to let that sit while I'm mixing my other ingredients. So I'm going to put in about 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Okay, now so for my fat, when I do this for both my biscuits and my pie crust. I like to use half the fat, my Kerrygold grass-fed butter, and then the other half I use the Tropical Traditions Organic Palm Shortening. To me, that just makes the best tasting and best texture in pie crust and biscuits. All right, so I'm gonna put in sorry, I definitely can't give you measurements on this one. I'll show you this much, which is probably about a tablespoon of butter, because remember, I'm just doing a half batch, and then about that much again of the shortening. And I usually start with a small amount, I cut it in, and then kind of see what the texture feels like after that. And it's really cold in my house, so this is going to be more difficult than usual to cut in. It's just very cold in here this morning. Alright, so you can see that when it gets to a certain point, which it still wasn't to that point, but everything's just so cold that I had to resort to the finger method right away. But this is, to me, this is the best way personally to really get the fat to break down into the smallest pieces you want. I start doing this with my fingers first, especially if the clumps are kind of big, and then I take my hands and I roll it. I'm using a smallish bowl because I'm doing such a small batch, but that means I'm making a bigger mess because I don't have a bigger bowl to catch all this. Alright, I want to let my milk sit for a little longer and let it clabber. I've got this all broken up to a pretty good consistency, and I'm going to be back when I'm ready to blend these two. Alright, now that my wood stove is finally starting to get up to temperature, it's taking forever today, I'm going to go ahead and mix. I don't know if you can see that the milk's kind of thickened a little bit because of the vinegar, and I'm going to mix that in. That's just another way you can make buttermilk, really, is by doing that. And obviously I got a little bit too much liquid, so I'm going to have to add some more flour to this. Unless you want sticky. This is actually good for a drop biscuit, but that's not the kind of biscuit I want for the way I got to make these. So I'm going to add a little bit more flour. Try not to knead the dough too much. I find I just get a better result if they tell you shouldn't anyway. I mean, when I first started making biscuits in my early teens, that was one of the things is you don't knead it more than X amount of times. Well, I find it's best just to pretty much push it together. And anyway, so make sure that if you're going to do a cut biscuit, get a biscuit cutter or some kind of cutter that's either totally open on the top or has holes. You're just going to have a much better result. You're going to get a fluffier biscuit than using a glass to cut biscuits is a good way to do it if you don't have anything else. But really, you're just going to get a better result when you do it with a cutter because it's going to leave the edges more open, and so the biscuit can rise better. So I'm pretty sure these biscuits are not all going to fit into my little pan because the pan I like to use is more for when I do just 2 or 3 biscuits at a time, and today I have 4. So I'm going to go get my little cast iron pan that I like to use for baking my biscuits in. Alright, so what I've done is I've heated my little cast iron skillet. Now this isn't a Lodge. I decided to try this one. It was a pretty good price. It was a lot less expensive than the Lodge. And I can't remember the name. I can't see it. But I got it on Amazon. And I just needed more pan this size for our use because I can fit this really good in my toaster oven for when I'm doing this kind of thing in the summer plugged into our solar power. So I'll put a link to this particular pan below if you want to check it out. So yeah, 3 biscuits is all I can fit in here. And so I'll have an extra one. I'll cook that later. So I'm going to take you in there and put this on the wood stove and show you how I do this. So I got the beef bacon back here cooking, and the stove just now got up to 200. So everything's only just now really getting cooking. So it'll be a while yet before it's even ready. But once the bacon's done, I'll be making my gravy in that pan using the bacon grease. And then you can see I have my biscuits here. And if the stove was really hot, I would put a loose cover over the biscuits to help retain the heat and get them baked all the way through. But since my wood stove is fairly cool today, it's not real hot, I'm going to go ahead and leave it off because I prefer for the biscuits to not really have to cover them if I can help it, because sometimes it holds in too much moisture and then it makes the biscuits soggy on top. I'll come back after a bit and I'll show you what I do with the biscuits to get them browned on the other side. Alright, so my biscuits are ready. You can see I already have one turned. I'm going to turn the other 2 so you can watch me do it here. And then you see this 4th biscuit I have sitting here. Since I have this extra one, I thought I'd do it right on the wood stove like I do my tortillas. And that's how I make my biscuits, on the wood stove. And so since I got here, I'm pouring in the gravy mix that I made up. Well, it's not a bought mix, it's my own. I used tapioca starch this time, some homegrown basil, and a little bit of my homegrown mixed greens. And look at that, this biscuit's actually turning out pretty good just right on the wood stove. And it's like I just got it all cleaned off again, so it was perfect time to do it on there. But there you have it. So that's how I make biscuits and gravy on my wood stove without a wood cook oven. I just do it right here and it works. Works great. Look at that color. That's nice. I think Mr. Rain's gonna have a nice breakfast this morning. Not that he doesn't have a nice breakfast most mornings, but you know. Alright, there you have it. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.